Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into strategic planning at the college level. My guest today is Andrew Allen. He is the Assistant Dean of Strategic Engagement and Experiential Learning. So from Gies College, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anthony. Great to be here.
Yeah, so usually, Andrew, I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate studies at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah.
Ah, all right. So do you have any other colleges that you went to as well?
Yeah, I later went back to school and did an MBA, Master's in Business Administration at Thunderbird School of Global Management down in Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow, fantastic. So before we get involved into what you're doing, Brigham Young, in high school, was that the first place that you wanted to go? Were there other schools involved? What did you start thinking about going to college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year of high school? When did it all begin for you?
Yeah, good question, Anthony. I'd always planned to attend college. Brigham Young was always on my list. I had siblings and family members who had gone there. It was a part of my faith background, so that was it was always on my list. I looked at other schools, but really BYU was always first on my list.
Good. So now you get to BYU. What do you think of the school? What do you think of the classes? What is it all about?
Yeah, I loved it. So I had an interesting, maybe a unique experience. When I turned 15, my family moved to Geneva, Switzerland. And I was exposed to kind of a whole new world in Europe. I lived there for 3 years and graduated high school there. And BYU was interesting because it was very cosmopolitan. A lot of students from all over the world. A lot of students there speak at least a second language, which was very similar to life in Switzerland. There were a lot of high achieving students, but a lot of students are just very down to earth. I found that the professors were very caring about the individual student. And there were a lot of smart students, but everyone felt like you can just study what you want, do what you want, pursue your own path. And that was kind of nice. I didn't feel like I was forced into any one kind of direction.
Yeah. So now you graduate from school there, you go to other schools as well to get more education. How does one go from those schools to where you are today? Well, give me the path.
Yeah, my path winds a little bit, and as I've talked to other people, I find that's more typical than atypical. I think students, high schoolers and college students think it's a linear path, and you make one decision that determines the rest of your life. But the truth is, most paths wind, and that's okay. So out of school, I went to an accounting firm, KPMG, in the Silicon Valley, California. Then I switched to nonprofit because I was interested in the nonprofit sector. Then I went to business school to get an MBA because I wanted more business acumen. And so, like I said, my path was winding a little bit. During my MBA, I decided that I wanted to change education. I wanted education to be more hands-on, more real world, more applicable, more connected to businesses and nonprofits. So I actually started my own company. It was called moremarbles.com, and I had a sister website called universityconsulting.com, and it was basically like an eBay type platform where companies would get connected with schools. It was a project marketplace where businesses would say, I need help with marketing, I need help with my financial analysis. And professors at any school around the country could bid on those projects and bring those projects into their classrooms. And so one of my partners was the University of Illinois, the College of Business, and I was sourcing projects. I was kind of this matchmaker. And they said, you know what, we've got a great program here, and you should think about applying. We've got an opening here. And so I had not planned to go into academia, but I loved this kind of connection between business and academia. And so I joined University of Illinois about 10 years ago and have loved it ever since.
So is University of Illinois part of the Gies College?
Yeah, so the Gies College of Business is one of the colleges, one of the schools within the University of Illinois. So we have about 57,000 students at the university, and the Gies College of Business has about 10,000 students.
Wow. Okay. So strategic engagement, tell us about your position. How does it actually work? What do you actually do in the position?
Yeah, good question. Part of my time is spent working with companies to help businesses tap into a business school. So how do they hire students? How do they get the best talent? How do they get involved in the classroom and come in as guest speakers and mentor students and that sort of thing? A big part of my time is also spent on what we call experiential learning, which is kind of the academic term for learning by doing. And over the last few years, our business school is really focused on that as one of our key differentiators. We feel like students need to gain skills while they're in school and not just learn theory, but learn how to put the theory into practice. And so a lot of my time has been spent on bringing companies in who have needs. And they say, I need help with a marketing plan. I need a business plan, maybe a small business, maybe a nonprofit. And we put those into the classroom where students get to work on real projects for real companies as a part of their academic experience. And so at this point, we work with over 200 businesses a year. Over 1,000 students are doing these projects every single year, just as a part of their academic program. So that's where I spend a lot of my time on.
So now the 200 companies that are dealing with you, they're from all over the country, all over the world?
Yeah, a lot of them are based in the state of Illinois because we are a state institution, but they are based all over the country and throughout the world as well.
Okay. And then the students, are they freshmen, seniors? Who are the people that are most of the students that are part of this?
Yeah, so we're a four-year business school plus a fifth-year master's. And one of the key decisions we made early on was we don't want to wait until the very end of the student experience to let them have this real world experience. We want to give it to them as early as possible. But we want to do it, incrementally. So they're not drinking from the fire hose right from day one. So yes, as freshmen, we have freshmen working on projects with real companies. And then in their junior year, we have our Business 301 course called Business in Action. And in that course, they get put on a team of 5 students, and they'll spend all semester solving a business problem for their client, for their assigned business. And so they're just like in the real world, working with executives and presenting to CEOs and whatnot. So that happens in their junior year, but we have a 4-year curriculum from freshman to senior where they incrementally do more in-depth and more immersive learning by doing.
And so the students, once they get into their projects and everything and they're ready to graduate, do you see a lot of them actually go to those companies and become part of those companies, or they doing their own thing after they graduate?
Yeah, it's a good question, Anthony. It's funny because I'll sit in a lot of these presentations with the final presentations the students make. And often I'll hear the company say, hey, is anyone here looking for a job? Because you're fantastic and we want to hire you. Interestingly, by that time, many of the students have already landed their full-time job. So that there isn't necessarily a huge number of students that go to work for those specific companies. A lot of our students will go work for those same companies, maybe not because of the project, but indirectly. But what we do see is students gain skills from these experiences that get them the job. So when they go talk to a recruiter, the recruiter will say, tell me about this project thing that you mentioned here on your resume. And once they ask that question, that's all they talk about the whole interview, because the recruiters realize this is real world work that the students get. And the employers say that these students hit the ground running a year or two ahead of peers because of these kind of experiences.
So now tell me the process of the student getting into the Gies College. Are there certain requirements that they need? How does one get into the school?
Yeah, so like many four-year business schools, it's an application process while you're in high school. So you apply to the business school directly, not to the University of Illinois. And so on our website, there's all the details about how to get in. We do also have transfer students. So a student may come to the University of Illinois and then a year later realize, I really want to study business. So we do have that opportunity. And then we have transfer students come from outside of University of Illinois. So they might be at some other university and then hear about how great the Gies College of Business is and say, I want to apply there. And they come in as a sophomore, as a junior.
So once they're in the school, give me a sense of what they're learning. What are some of the classes? What are some of the projects, the names of the projects that they're taking?
Yeah, so similar maybe to other business schools, they'll take accounting, they'll take marketing, they'll take finance, and obviously they'll start at the basic level and they get more in depth. At the end of their sophomore year, then they can decide what they want to focus on as their major. So a lot of our students will go into finance and accounting, but a lot will also go into operations or information systems or marketing or management. And so those are the kind of the basic topics. Recently, a few years ago, we actually underwent a big curricular change. We talked to a lot of companies. We said, what are the kind of skills students need or talent, graduates need when they come out of school? And, one of those was business analytics. And so we put a lot more, there's at least 2 courses now that every student will take in business analytics. And they may not learn a ton of coding, but they'll get a little bit into, maybe some Python and some data visualization tools like Tableau and others. And so there's a little bit more technical skills that we now have a part of our business curriculum. So they'll do projects on kind of financial statement analysis and marketing plan analysis and that kind of thing. And then they do these experiential learning projects where it could be anything from data analysis to doing a budget planning for a company to identifying new customers.
So they're really helping out the companies because I guess everybody is getting into that analytics. You see it in sports, you see it in business, you see it almost everywhere. Is that just something that's going to be the wave of the future?
Yeah, we see analytics as just a part of business, right? It's not just there's not just a separate business analytics team at all these companies, but everyone's going to have some level of skills in business analytics. Students have done projects now with insurance companies on, how do we be smarter about insurance premiums based on types of cars people drive, where they're driving, how far they drive. And we've had a lot of projects, more and more projects like that from companies that are they have big amounts of data. And what does all this data mean?
Yeah. So, and you brought up finance. Is there financial aid or anything like that the students get from the college, or is it really all based on academics?
Yeah, so there's both. So students can apply and be accepted for academic-based scholarships. There's also needs-based scholarships available. We have very, very generous donors. And so there's a lot of opportunities for students to get access to that kind of financial aid.
Yeah. And so do you go out and find students at the high school level? Is there like a college night or something that you guys do to get them to see what the school can do?
Yeah, there's a number of things. We'll go to high schools and talk to high school advisors. And so a lot of it is word of mouth as well, not just from the administrators at high schools, but friends and family and that sort of thing. We do a couple of interesting things that I think parents and students have really enjoyed. We'll bring them down to Champaign, Illinois. We're about 2.5 hours south of Chicago. And they'll come spend a day or two on campus. And they get to see what class is like. They get to meet administrators. They get to learn about all the different programs. They'll meet, potential future students, peers, get to talk to them about what school is like. So not just the campus tours that a lot of schools will offer, but really in-depth, day, high schooler day here on campus.
Now, do you do any events while the students are in these classes? Is there any kind of like networking events that they do or anything like that?
There's a ton. Do you mean networking with student to student or student
Yeah,
to employer or?
both student to student and student to employer.
Yeah, so we have a huge number of RSOs, registered student organizations, sometimes called student clubs. So a huge number of our students participate in any number of our student organizations. And that is one of the best ways that students can get to know each other and get to know not just peers who are freshmen to freshmen, but freshmen to senior and senior to alumni and so on. So very, very active student organizations, and they're also very inclusive student organizations. So any student can, participate in a lot of these organizations. And then we do a lot of networking with alumni and with employers through our career fairs, and we'll do treks, and we'll do lots of other kind of in-depth ways to connect students to employers.
So now, how do you also find the companies to be part of this?
Yeah, so we have, anywhere between 200 and 300 companies come to our career fair every year. And like I mentioned, another 250 companies that will participate in our in-class projects, plus alumni that'll come into the classroom. So it's a ton of external engagement. We have different teams within the college that will reach out, to these companies. A lot of these companies that participate have an alum that's working in that company. And so, they, as a student at Gies, they went through one of these experiences. It was life-changing for them. So 2-3 years out, they're at the company and they say, I want to bring my company back and allow other students to have that kind of an experience. So tons of our participating companies are coming to us through alumni. A lot of them are repeats. So they'll do a project with us in the fall and they say, that was fantastic. And word will spread within the company, and they'll come back in the spring for another project. And then we work a lot with businesses and nonprofits in our community, which is really exciting. We really want to make a difference in our community, not just for our students, but for
Sure.
society at large. And so we have lots of small businesses and nonprofits that get involved.
So can small businesses and nonprofits be part of all of this as well?
Absolutely. We work with tons of startups. We work with tons of local businesses, hair salons, and childcare centers, and all sorts of fun and really useful and helpful businesses and nonprofits.
So do some students get paid for this? Is it like an internship type program?
So most of our experiential learning programs are curricular. So the students don't get paid. They're doing this as a part of a class. We do have a program called Illinois Business Consulting. This is extracurricular where students have to apply. It's very difficult to get in, and they work with not just business students, but students from all over the university. And the students that get kind of promoted to the top of that program are paid an hourly wage to help lead the organization. But for the most part, this is all about getting experience and not as much about the job or the pay itself.
So tell me a little on the project. How many students are on one particular project for a business? Is it the whole class, or is it just one or two students?
So we'll form teams of about 5 students. And this is something maybe different at the Gies College of Business. Rather than have an entire class work on the same project, we put them into intimate teams of 5. So really the buck stops with them to do the project, and they get a closer relationship with their company that they're working with. So it's you as a student with 4 peers, and you'll have a team leader that's usually a volunteer from the team, and then you work directly. You'll meet with a company every single week on a call or in person, and then twice during the semester you'll do more of a formal presentation where multiple stakeholders from the company come in, and maybe it's the CEO and the chief marketing officer and other executives come in to get to see kind of what you're working on as a team.
So who are the main people that you work with at the companies? Is it one particular person, or do you get really the whole company involved where they're working with different departments of the company?
It's usually one person at the company who's interfacing with the student team. So when they're having their weekly call, it's probably one person, maybe 2 from the company, and they're the ones involved day in and day out on the project. And then for this formal presentation, like a final presentation, they might invite their colleagues to come in. So we've had as many as 20 people from the company show.
Wow.
We had one company, it was a younger company. They invited the entire company, all 50 employees showed up for the final presentation, and we had a sophomore leading that presentation from the student side, and she did just a fantastic job.
Wow, that's fantastic. So a lot of the projects you said are major projects within the company to move them forward in some aspect.
Yeah, we worked with an ice cream company, a major ice cream producer, for example, and they asked the question, "What's the future of ice cream consumption?" Right? And this was a perfect kind of project because the market research for the students is, well, you go out and eat ice cream, right? But this was a big question for a multi-billion-dollar company, and based on the results, they were going to make acquisitions, they were going to buy new products or create new products, and the student team presented to the entire C-level team at the company. So that's one example. We worked with a candy company that I could name some of the brands and you'd recognize them. The students, they were asking, how can we add some different kind of flavors, right, to keep up with competition and keep up with what customers care about. And so the students did all these flavor profiles and did these surveys and that kind of thing to figure out what people care about. So, a lot of, food and CPG kind of companies, but financial services and insurance and all sorts of companies, they love getting fresh ideas and new perspective and from students who maybe aren't jaded or don't have specific kind of ways of thinking of how things should be. So yeah, all kinds of companies.
So now, where do you see the future of the program and what is going to come out? What's the next steps that are happening? What do you see?
Yeah, we've just barely scaled this up. So we did a bunch of pilots over a few years, and now every single Gies student participates in this program, not just in their junior year, but like I mentioned, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. So part of it is just kind of tweaking it, getting better and better, and making sure the experience is as beneficial to the students as possible. Over time, we'll get more and more alumni involved through these companies. I think, some of the whole reason we're doing this, right? It's not just to make school fun, which it does. It makes school really fun. But the whole purpose is to prepare students to be successful in their careers. So as we move into the future, part of this is just keeping an ear to the ground, talking to companies, what are the skills, what are the competencies they're looking for, and making sure we help the students get those competencies and follow the students after graduation to make sure that those things were useful. We talk to a lot of our alumni and they say, that class or that experience or that project changed my whole career. It helped me decide what I want to study. It helped me decide where I wanted to go work and all that sort of thing. So just kind of fine tuning as we go.
Yeah. And do students come to you and ask you questions as well?
You mean current students or prospective students? Or yeah, so I've had different roles over the few years. I've taught some of these action learning courses, and I've taught some of the courses where we teach our students to manage other students. I'm not as involved in the classroom now, for better or for worse, but I still speak with the students quite a bit and love to hear their stories and their questions. And honestly, for some students, they'll get into an experience like this, and at first there's a negative reaction because they say, just tell me what's on the syllabus, just tell me how to get the points. And we say, no, I don't know what the answer is, and you're going to have to figure it out. And by the end of the semester, they say, well, this is life-changing.
That's great. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to students and parents that are watching the show? What advice do you want to give them?
Yeah, so it's always easier to look back, right, than to look forward. I would just say that I know a lot of parents and students look at rankings, and we look at rankings, but I would encourage them to not put too much weight strictly on rankings, and focus more on what do you want to get out of college. College is an investment in time and money. And so it's more about what kind of experience do I want to have, and where do I want to end up on the tail end of college, and what kind of opportunities do I hope this will give me. And those are the kind of schools that you want to focus on. And they may not be ranked as high as other schools, but that doesn't matter as much, right? It matters more about, does this take me where I want to go? And I would focus on which schools can help me get the experiences and the skills I need to have the kind of career and the career opportunities that I want to have later on.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Anthony, thanks for your time. Thanks for what you're doing. This is really helpful and useful for parents and students.
Great. Thank you very much. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.